Well, Nigel Farage is the leader of UKIP and joins us now from Millbank. And I'm sure you'll be pleased with what you've heard Robin Brandt saying there, Nigel Farage. Let me just ask you, in terms of measures, should David Cameron be restricting skilled workers from outside the EU? And does this immigration task force sound like a good idea to you?
It's all the wrong way around, isn't it? I mean, look, we in UKIP as a party are pro-immigration, but we're pro-controlled immigration. We want an Australian-style point system. And what that means is that you want people to come to Britain in controlled numbers, yes, but you want people to come who are skilled, haven't got criminal records, and don't bring health problems that would burden the National Health Service. So what Mr Cameron has done today is to say we're going to stop skilled people coming from outside the EU, but allow unskilled people who may have criminal records and may have difficult medical histories to come in unlimited numbers. It is all the wrong way round. And immigration out there amongst ordinary folk has now become a huge negative. People are furious. And these figures today will make them even angrier. What we want to do in UKIP is make immigration a positive thing where we control the quality and quantity of who comes to Britain. Mr Cameron can't offer that. And let me tell you that in Brussels, Mrs Merkel and Mr Juncker at the European Commission will offer him nothing in this referendum. And I have a feeling that today was a bad day for David Cameron.
Can we just go back to those Australia figures? Because you often talk about the Australian-style point system. And actually, if you look at Australia's immigration, they've got about 750,000 immigrants in the last 4 years, just under what the UK has. And yet their population is a third of ours. So presumably it manifestly hasn't worked in Australia, this point system you talk about.
No, because they choose every year. Every year, sector by sector, they choose who they want to come to Australia, what skills they need and what quantity they need. The point about an Australian-style point system is you choose. You can choose a tiny number or a very large number. What we cannot do as EU members is say to 500 million people that we can't restrict a single one of those 500 million from coming to Britain. It's about control. It's about choice.
Can I just ask you there, in terms of non-EU migrants, might UKIP be advocating 1 year many more immigrants coming in?
I would like to see net migration to Britain reduced to about a tenth of what it currently is. What I'm really saying is let's get back to what we had from 1950 until 1998, when net migration to Britain ran at about 30,000 a year. That did not restrict Britain for most of that period, growing at 2.5% per year, and it allowed us to become the best integrated Western European society in terms of people of different cultures coming into our country.
But I'm sure you recognise that UK employment is now at its highest ever. Many people in business who may be big supporters of UKIP will point to how well the economy is doing now and saying without that level of immigration, it will tank.
Well, the problem with that is that youth unemployment remains at nearly 750,000 people. The problem with that is that wage compression means that so many people on low pay have seen their earnings reduce over the course of the last decade. And by the way, when I first said that, I was howled down as scapegoating migrants for people's decline in living standards, something that was backed up on Monday this week by Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England. And the other problem is productivity in Britain is dropping with every single year. So the fact you have more people employed, the fact your gross domestic product as a nation rises, does not mean that living standards for working British people are increasing, because frankly, they're not.
Let's just look at UKIP. You wrote in The Spectator today that you recognised at the end of all this you probably did need a break. Are you going to take that break?
I am.
Where are you going? Who's going to be in charge when you're off?
Otherwise I'll have you all chasing me there. Look, it's been a difficult time. Who would have believed there'd be a majority Conservative government with 331 Conservative MPs, with an average of 36,000 votes each, and 4 million people would vote for UKIP with just one MP. So, it's been a very difficult 5 or 10 days, but I will tell you this. Firstly, I'm taking a holiday, yes, and secondly, we're the one party that goes into the referendum absolutely united in our view. We want Britain to have a different relationship with the European Union, and the rest of them, I bet you, will rip themselves apart.
Who are you leaving in charge when you're away? I won't ask you where you're going, but presumably it's Paul Nuttall, is it?
It will be, yes.
So he's going to step up, and you're going to have the summer off, or? Well,
I'll take a few weeks off. I'm not running away because, of course, the one thing that I've spent 20 years fighting for, namely that we should get a referendum on our membership of the European Union, is now on the agenda, and I suspect it'll take place in May of next year. So I can't be away for too long.
Okay.
This matters far too much.
We saw Craig McKinley, the Tory MP who won South Thanet in the end, being sworn in the House of Commons today. When you look back over the last few weeks, and you've admitted it's been a difficult 10 days, is there anything that you would have changed in your campaign or in what happened subsequently?
What you also saw today was a man called Trevor Shonk becoming the mayor of Ramsgate as the little ships left for the reenactment 75 years to the day of the miracle of Dunkirk that happened from Ramsgate. We now have a UKIP-controlled Thanet District Council, a UKIP-controlled Ramsgate Town Council, a UKIP mayor in Ramsgate and a UKIP mayor in Margate.
Is
and
that a
4
no,
million people that voted UKIP. I don't think the last 2 weeks has been too bad.
So nothing you would have changed in terms of the campaign or what happened subsequently with the resignation or the stepping back?
Well, I wouldn't have planned things to be the way they were, and I was a bit shocked and frankly taken aback by the passion of the National Executive that told me I simply must not go, that if I did, I'd be letting them down, letting the party down, and letting down 4 million voters. And I hadn't quite anticipated that, and perhaps I hadn't thought that through clearly enough. When you're caught up in the conflict of an election campaign, you don't always see these things, and I recognised that actually the right thing to do was to go on, and I will go on.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for joining us on BBC News.